Hi, boys and girls. This is Grandma Sheilla, and our story today is called The Talking Tortilla. Oh, I mean, I have tortillas. I make burritos out of them, but they don't talk. What could they be talking about? Well, this story took place in Mexico, and the Mexican people, they eat tortillas almost every day. Two missionary ladies that were there, Ruby and Violet. They had been there for some time, running the school in that little mission. And today, the kids were very excited. Do you know why they were excited? Because the teacher said the little mission plane was coming and it was going to bring them a surprise. Do you like surprises? I do. Well, they had done their homework faithfully, and then all of a sudden, one of them, his eyes looking back and forth, he said, "It's coming. I hear it coming. I hear the mission plane." Well, the teacher knew that the kids wouldn't study any longer. They had to go see what was in the plane, what the surprise was. Soon the drone of the plane was obvious to everybody, and the teacher and all the students left the classroom and went rushing down to the little airstrip. Well, it didn't take long for that pilot to get that plane down to the ground, and it taxied all the way down that airstrip. And that's where the teacher and all the students were standing excitedly. Well, the pilot, he jumped right out. And out of the back of the plane, he pulled out several boxes. Well, the kids, they oohed and they awed. What could be in those boxes? They didn't know. Oh, the only person that knew were the two missionaries, Ruby and Violet. Now, Ruby was standing right there, and she said, "The kids are so excited about what you brought. Why don't you open one of the boxes and they can see it?" So, out of one of the boxes, the pilot, he took out a small box. They kind of looked like a suitcase, had a little handle on the front. It had two little flaps that came down and held it shut. When he opened it, they called it a phonograph or a record player. Do you know what a record is? Well, when I was a little girl, and years before that, we had record players. And a record looked like this. Oh dear, this one's so big. It looks like a thin piece of plastic, and it kind of is, but it has ridges all the way around it. And if you had it in the light just right, you could kind of see all those ridges. And a phonograph was that little box, and in it, was a little machine, and there was an arm, a narrow arm that came out, and on the end of that arm was about this big, a tiny little needle. And if you put the needle on it, that record would go round and round, and whatever they had recorded on that record would play. The missionary, She took that little record player and she set it on a stump that was sitting there. And she called Margarito, which was one of the boys from the school. And he was the son of an old witch doctor. Well, he liked going to this Christian school, and he was proud that he was chosen to come up and help with this surprise. And she said, "Now see this box? On the side of it, there's a crank. And if you crank it round and round till I tell you to stop, the record will play." So, right there on the stump, Margarito, he started cranking. And he stopped because when he started to crank, that black record started to talk. Well, you and I know we have CDs and DVDs and all sorts of things that can make music and talk to us. But they didn't understand it. And they went, "What makes the tortilla talk?" "A black tortilla." They'd never seen a black tortilla. They're always white. Well, he started to crank again, and Ruby said, "Keep cranking it till I tell you to stop." And so he did. He cranked, and he cranked, and he cranked. And with every crank, there was music, there was talking, there was people quoting Bible verses. There was all sorts of things. Well, the kids were very excited about this, and when they got all those boxes back to the school, the teacher said, "Now you tell all your families that if they want to come and borrow one of the record players and the record, they can take it to their own villages and they can tell the people about Jesus. And those people can hear the Bible verses and the music and the stories that are on them." Well, lots of people came and said, "We want to go back to our own villages and we want to play the record player for them so that they can learn about Jesus." Well, Ruby said, "That's what they're for. Now you just sign your name." Well, some of them could sign, and some of them didn't know how to write, but their children did from going to school. So they would write their parents' name on this big, long piece of paper so Ruby would know who had the different phonographs or record players. Ruby had a hard time making the children understand how that worked. Well, a few days later, Domingo, he used to be a witch doctor in the village that he had lived in, and he was covered with the slashes of a machete. Now, a machete is a long, long, long knife, and they use it to cut down the jungle so that they can make paths. And they use it for a lot of other things, bad things like fighting and things. Well, they had attacked the witch doctor, the people that used to be his friend. And so after that, he had come and lived here at the mission station. And he said, "And while I was here, God stole my heart and turned me around so I could be a good person." Well, he came to the school and he said, I want to borrow one of your phonographs and records, and I want to take them to my home, to that village I came from, and let the people know about what a wonderful God there is. Can I do that? Ruby said, that's what they're for. You can take one. Can you sign? Well, Domingo, he signed his name. You know, for a lot of the people, the older people, learning to read and write was very difficult for them. And that was part of the reason why the two missionaries had ordered the surprises. Because now those people that couldn't read could bring a little phonograph to their village, and the black records, or the black tortillas, as they called them, would tell the story of Jesus for them. Well, Domingo, he took that. It took him 2 days of walking through the jungle to get to his home. Well, when he got there, the people were so excited to see him again. They thought he would be just like it was before. He was their witch doctor. But you know, witch doctors, they don't believe in God. They believe in spirits that belong to the devil. And we don't want anything to do with the devil. Well, now that Domingo was no longer a witch doctor, he had given his heart to Jesus. Well, they visited for a long time, and then the men got out some liquor. Oh, that's bad stuff. But since Domingo had become a Christian, he didn't drink anymore. Well, he didn't know what to tell them exactly about that. So he turned around and he said, look what I've brought. Come see what I've brought. So he set that little record player down and he opened the box, he opened the lid, and he took the record. And the people went, a black tortilla. And he put it on that record player. And he started to crank. And the record went round and round and round. And every time it went around, it started to talk and sing and quote Bible verses. The people went, stop, stop. So Domingo stopped cranking. And the people looked at him and said, how can you do this? You're supposed to be a witch doctor. The devil, he's the one that gave you your healing powers and stuff. How can you turn your back on him? You're a bad person. Domingo, he was so sad. He said, I don't believe in the devil anymore. I believe in the God of heaven that made heaven and earth and the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon aren't gods. Only God up in heaven is. And he's the one I pray to. Well, they interrupted him, and one of the men came rushing up, and he looked at him, and he said, you get out of here, or I will take my machete to you. And in his hand, he had that big, long knife. And Domingo said, I just wanted to share with you. I want you to find Jesus too. Domingo had reached down to that little box, the phonograph, and he'd shut it and put up the latches, and he grabbed the record, and he started down the trail, that 2 days walk. He was sad, but then he turned around and he thought, maybe I gave up too soon, and he went back. He was going to try to tell them about Jesus again, but that man came running out again at him, and this time he had that long machete in his hand, and he said, "You get out of here right now." And I think he thought that he was going to destroy that record player with that big machete. But Domingo's hand was holding on to the handle, and the man took his machete and he went whack. Poor Domingo. He stood there while 3 of his fingers fell in the grass. Oh, oh, oh. What a terrible thing. With his good hand, he picked up that phonograph and his record, and he hustled his way down that jungle trail. When he got back to the village, he told the 2 missionaries, Ruby and Violet, about his experience. And he said, "Will you help me with my hand?" Now his hand looked like this. These 3 fingers were gone. Well, Ruby went and got medicine, and she got bandages, and she wrapped up Domingo's hand. And she said, "I'm so sorry." And Domingo said, "It's all right. They didn't know any better. I'll try again one of these days after my hand is better." Well, Ruby and Violet thought, "Oh, I wished that we had the courage of Domingo to tell people about Jesus." Do you know, boys and girls, right now in that area of Mexico, there's multiple little churches that believe in Jesus because people like Domingo kept going back and back to tell those people about the God of heaven. I'm sure that God will reward Domingo greatly for the work that he did for his, what he used to call his friends. Thank you, boys and girls, for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Maybe my voice will be better by then. Bye-bye.